What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma if you're new here, and I love to talk about all things Peloton spinning and fitness, so be sure to subscribe. I try to post a video every single Sunday. Today I'm going to be talking about Echelon spinning classes, the on-demand classes specifically. I am a die-hard Peloton fan. My boyfriend has a Peloton, but up in SF I have an Echelon bike that I bought off of Amazon for $500, which I've also made a video about. Love this bike, but decided to give out Echelon's on-demand experience a try, see how it compares to Peloton, and I thought that I would share what I have found by taking these classes for a week. I'm going to be comparing it to the experience of riding Peloton classes on this Echelon because if you're watching this video, you're probably between signing up for Peloton classes or signing up for Echelon classes if you have this Echelon bike. I assume if you have the Peloton bike, your experience is going to be different, and I don't think that you can even take Echelon classes on a Peloton bike. But you can take Peloton classes on this Echelon bike. So I will be describing my experience today of what it's like. So I thought I would just walk through all of the pros and then all of the cons in my opinion, and obviously take this with a grain of salt. Somebody else's cons could be my pros and vice versa. So to start off, since I have the Connect Prime bike, this is like the cheapest bike that Echelon offers, $500, and there's no screen on this bike. So if I want to take Peloton courses, I need to set up a freestyle ride on my phone so I can see the metrics that I need to follow along with the class. And then I stream the Peloton classes on my iPad. So every time I want to do a ride, I have to set up two different streams. And basically there's no way to connect the two streams because I'm basically doing something you're not really supposed to do. I'm taking Peloton classes. There's no way to save that data. So having an Echelon subscription is really great because it's all on one screen. I just do everything on my iPad. I can see all my metrics on the iPad. I can see the class on my iPad. And then they also store each class so I can go back and look like what my total output was, what my resistance was, information like that, and that's just information you can't get if you're taking Peloton classes on the Echelon. So I'd say that is definitely one of the hugest pros of having an Echelon subscription with an Echelon bike. Echelon also surprised me because I didn't think that they really had that many live classes, but they had probably like 10 live classes a day, which is in line with Peloton. So they have a lot of live classes, they have a lot of on-demand classes, and they also have a lot of instructors. They have almost 40, I think, which is crazy. Peloton only has, I think, around 20 cycling instructors. So obviously I didn't get to take all 40 instructors, but I like that there's a lot of different people, and that if you don't like someone, you probably can find someone that you like on Echelon just because of the sheer quantity. I'm also surprised they had some really great music. I think that Peloton got in a lawsuit at some point because they were just playing like any songs they could, and now they have rights to like certain recording artists. So sometimes I feel like Peloton music gets repetitive, but I felt like Echelon had a wider selection and a lot more pop music. For example, like they played a lot of like recent Drake songs, which I was surprised about. They had like Ellie Goulding, they had some other good artists, and I just really liked their music choices overall. I thought that that was also a huge pro to Echelon. And finally, this is just a small thing, but I appreciate it. They had some challenges set up. I don't know if they'll change if I rode more, but they had like some beginner challenges that was like, oh, take like 20-minute classes. Then there was like a pyramid challenge where you could take like a 20-minute, then a 30-minute, then a 45, 60, and then work your way back down. Obviously, these are not like super important things, but I find it really motivating to have challenges to try to meet. So I appreciated that they just took some time and put those together. Peloton also has challenges, but I feel like they're a lot more basic. Like one is like, oh, like ride 50 miles in the month of November. And even when I was on the Peloton itself, I was riding way more than that. So it wasn't even like a stretch goal. And then on here, you can't record how many miles you actually ride through Peloton classes and like sync it with Peloton. So it's impossible to meet those challenges. I like that there was just some taking classes challenges. I thought that it was pretty easy for them to set up, and then it's something I appreciate and it helps motivate me. Now I'm going to talk about the cons, and I think that the biggest con, which some people might disagree with me, they might like it, is they essentially don't give out actual intervals on the bike. Echelon has its own power zones, so the instructors will often be like, oh, this should be a moderate ride, you should be in a hard interval, you should be in a challenging interval. So I think that that's hard for beginners to know really where you should place, and even I struggled with that, and I cycle a lot to be able to place myself correctly. Mostly it's because you don't really know like what's coming up next. So I feel like you really have to know your different zones before you take these rides. And then quite a few times they would tell me to start in a challenging zone and they should say you should be breathless. And for example, I would start at like a 25 or 26 resistance, and on this bike only goes up to 32, and it seems like all Echelon bikes only go up to 32, but they'll keep saying add a point, and then I'll like get to 32, and there's no more points to add. And I'm definitely not like a top rider on Echelon, right? Like there's definitely people that are stronger than me, so I wonder what they do. And I just feel like it's kind of like poor organization, and I wish they would at least give suggestions of, oh, this should be challenging if you don't know 15 to 20 resistance or something like that, just to kind of guide the ride more. I feel like I have to really dictate how the ride is going, which I'm not a huge fan of. And some instructors will give more suggestions than others. I've taken rides on Echelon where they don't give cadence or resistance, which is just crazy in my opinion. And some people give cadence and let you set the resistance and vice versa. But overall, I think that's the biggest difference from Peloton classes, and it's something that I really don't like. The other thing I don't like is basically their entire app. I find searching very hard, and I also find searching hard on Peloton, but I think Echelon is even worse than this. I find the names of the classes are not very descriptive. They have cadence classes and they have speed classes, and I don't really know what the difference is between them, and even after taking them, I really don't know. They also don't list when the class was aired, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think the first ride I took was pretty old because there were people in the studio, and I could also hear the instructor breathing super heavily during the whole thing, and that wasn't true for the other rides, so I'm thinking that that ride was really old. But I wish that they told me that it was old, because then I just wouldn't have taken it. Like, I like taking newer rides so the instructors can kind of talk about like what's happening now, and also have more recent music, and also have it better tech, because tech is always getting better. So I just like to take newer rides. So I wish they would tell me like when these rides were made so that I could kind of filter it for myself. You also can't see what music is going to be in a ride before you take it. They will be like, oh, pop ride, but there's no list of music on the Peloton. It lists out what songs there will be, which I use a lot because I really like cycling to music I like. So that's also a con for Echelon and their search and app functionalities. Another thing I don't like about the app is I find it very hard to compare your past rides. For Peloton, they're very strict that there's like 45 minutes and that is the class. The instructor can talk before the 45 minutes starts, but the cadence, resistance, output markers won't start until that 45-minute class starts, and they make it very clear when it starts. For Echelon, I took a lot of 45-minute classes, and you click on it and it will just be like 46.5 minutes, no clear beginning, no clear ending. So it's hard to compare like certain 45-minute classes to other ones. And then it seems like there's no functionality of that really in the app. I've taken a bunch of 45-minute classes and it always says it's my personal best, but it's not always my personal best. I have done other 45-minute classes that I've been higher on, but I don't know why they don't compare with each other. I don't know if it's because they're different categories, like a speed and cadence category versus a resistance category. I don't really know how the comparison works, and it doesn't seem like it provides a lot of useful information to compare it easily. Also, while tracking if you're getting better against yourself, I don't think that their leaderboard really compares to Peloton's at all. Obviously, when you're riding the Echelon and taking Peloton classes, you also don't get to participate in the leaderboard, but I didn't think that this leaderboard was anything great. A lot of the time, it kind of lags and it doesn't actually show where you are. So I'll see my own output and it'll show people that have like a higher output than me or a lower output than me, but I'm not like in the middle in the rank, so I have to like scroll up and down while I'm biking to be able to see where I am, which is not a super great experience. It also seems like you can only compete with people that are taking the class right now, so you don't really know where you fall in the greater scheme of things. And then finally, there's no way to compare your past rides, so on the Peloton, your PR will also be on the leaderboard, so you can kind of see how you're doing compared to your past rides, but there's just no functionality like that for the Echelon, which is definitely a bummer. On a final note, I don't know how often this is, but on one of my rides, I had gone through like 40 minutes of it. It was actually a really great ride, and then my app just crashed. I was not touching the screen at all. I was just riding. I don't know if that's because I have a cheap bike, if I have a cheap iPad. Definitely both of those could be contributions, but when I opened the app, there was no way to resume the ride. It was kind of just over, which was sad, and then I just like stopped riding. But obviously not a great experience. That has never happened to me while streaming Peloton apps. It's never happened to me actually on the Peloton. So definitely they need to like work on their app stability. That's about all of my cons. It seems like a lot, but Echelon is really not that bad. Still, I would definitely recommend the Peloton classes, even on the Echelon bike over the Echelon classes. I think that Peloton right now at least still has a pretty good lead over them. The only reason I would ever recommend Echelon is if there was somebody that wasn't very technically capable that wanted a bike, because it is very easy that it's all on one screen compared to the Peloton class where you have to have an iPhone and an iPad, or essentially you need to have two screens and you have to collaborate them. So that's it for this video. I hope that it helped you in some way. Maybe you're interested in trying out Echelon classes now. It was definitely a cool experience to have. Leave a comment down below if you take Echelon classes, who your favorite instructor is, because I am doing a 30-day free trial, so I can still take some classes in the future, and I'd love to see who everybody likes. I hope you guys are staying safe, having an awesome week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!